Black beans. 7,000 years ago, deep in what is now southern Mexico, indigenous farmers planted a small, dark seed alongside corn and squash. They called it the turtle bean. Today, you call it black beans. Here's the first thing most people get wrong. The skin is not black, it is dark purple. The same pigment that makes blueberries blue, called anthocyanins, gives this bean its color. That pigment actively fights inflammation inside your body every time you eat them. 1 cup of cooked black beans delivers 15 grams of protein, 15 grams of fiber, and a concentrated dose of folate. The Aztec and Maya did not just eat them. They used them in religious ceremonies, treating them as sacred. Spanish explorers carried them to Europe in the 1500s. Portuguese traders put them on ships to Africa. Today they feed most of Latin America. Every single meal, every single day. That journey from a Mexican farm to your plate took 7,000 years and crossed every ocean on Earth. Kidney beans. 8,000 years ago, in the highlands of Peru, a bean was domesticated that would travel the world by ship. Indigenous traders carried it north through Central America, tribe to tribe, used as both food and trade currency. In 1532, seeds landed in Italy after Spanish Emperor Charles V gifted them directly to Pope Clement VII. From the Vatican, the bean spread across Europe. Portuguese traders then loaded them onto ships heading to Africa and Asia. The name came purely from shape. It looks like a human kidney. Native Americans also used it medicinally, specifically to treat kidney and bladder conditions. Firm, dark red holds its shape under heat. 9 grams of protein per 100 grams. High in folate and copper. In New Orleans, it became the backbone of red beans and rice. Jazz legend Louis Armstrong loved that dish so much he signed every personal letter, "Red beans and ricely yours." The twist you need to hear. Raw kidney beans are toxic. They contain a lectin called phytohemagglutinin. 5 raw beans can cause violent vomiting and diarrhea. The FDA has officially warned that slow cookers do not get hot enough to destroy the compound. You have to boil them hard for a full 30 minutes. The most recognizable bean in your pantry is one of the most dangerous on this list if you skip that step. Pinto beans. 5,000 years ago in Mexico, farmers were growing a bean that looked like someone had painted it by hand. Tan skin, dark brown splotches across the surface. They named it the painted bean. Today it is the most consumed dry bean in the United States. Americans eat over 3 pounds per person every year. That is nearly 4 times more than any other bean on this list. And here's the irony. When you cook them, the paint disappears entirely. The speckled skin turns a plain pinkish tan. The most popular bean in America erases its own identity when it hits the water. Cowboys on cattle drives across the American West relied on pintos as their main protein. They dug pits in the ground, dropped in a pot, and slow cooked them overnight. Dove Creek, Colorado still officially calls itself the pinto bean capital of the world. Pinto beans also carry more fiber than any other bean on this list, 15 grams per cooked cup, plus magnesium, potassium, and folate. They are the base of refried beans, the inside of every classic burrito, and the foundation of Tex-Mex cooking as a whole. In Brazil, this exact same bean is called feijão carioca, named after a pig breed with similar coloring. Not a city, a pig. Wait, before we get to fava beans, the one bean that literally got a man and his entire crew killed, we're doing a quick challenge. I've hidden 6 small cats throughout this video. Can you find them all? I'll give you 30 seconds, or just pause if you're not a pro. While you're looking, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button and subscribe if you're enjoying the food lore so far. It helps the channel more than you know. Okay, time's up. Let me know in the comments how many you found. No spoilers. Now, back to the bean that a philosopher chose death over. Fava beans. This is the oldest bean on this list by thousands of years. 10,000 years ago, in what is now northern Palestine, Neolithic farmers were growing fava beans before they grew wheat or barley. This bean fed civilizations before grain did. Homer mentioned them in the Iliad. Ancient Egyptians placed them in tombs as burial offerings. And then came Pythagoras. The mathematician behind the Pythagorean theorem ran a philosophical school in Cortona, a Greek seaport in southern Italy. He preached vegetarianism. He banned meat. He also banned fava beans entirely, forbidding his followers from eating them, touching them, or walking through a field of them. He believed their hollow stems were literal ladders connecting the living world to Hades. He believed eating a fava bean meant consuming a human soul. When a group of his followers was being chased by enemies and reached a blooming fava field, they stopped. They refused to run through it. They turned and faced their attackers. Most of them were killed. Modern science tells a different story. Pythagoras had a genetic condition called G6PD deficiency, also known as favism. In people with this enzyme disorder, fava beans trigger the rapid destruction of red blood cells, causing jaundice, severe anemia, and in some cases death. Millions of people across the Mediterranean, Africa, and South Asia carry this condition today. The philosopher was not being superstitious. The bean was genuinely deadly to him. He just explained it with mythology instead of biology. Chickpeas, the oldest cultivated bean in human history. In southeastern Turkey over 10,000 years ago, in a region so fertile it may have inspired the legend of the Garden of Eden, Neolithic farmers domesticated a round, bumpy, cream-colored legume. Its wild ancestor, Sycur reticulatum, still grows exclusively in that small corner of Turkey. It grows nowhere else on Earth. By 3200 BC, chickpeas were in Jericho. By 1400 BC, Egyptians were placing bowls of them in burial tombs. Ancient Romans roasted and ground them as a coffee substitute centuries before coffee ever reached Europe. The Roman statesman Cicero got his entire name from this bean. His family had a distinctive bump on the nose shaped like a chickpea. Cicer in Latin, Cicero, round, firm, nutty, 15 grams of protein per cooked cup, high in folate, manganese, and phosphorus. The most consumed bean in the world by direct human eating. India produces and eats more chickpeas than any other country by a wide margin. And hummus, the paste made from blended chickpeas, went from a niche Middle Eastern product to the second most popular dip in America in under 30 years, right behind salsa. A 10,000-year-old bean from southern Turkey is now a billion-dollar industry in the United States. Mung Beans, 4,500 years ago in the Harappan civilization, across what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, farmers were harvesting small green seeds. The ancient Hindu Vedas, some of the oldest written texts on Earth, mentioned them by name. They traveled the Silk Road into China. They spread through Southeast Asia. They eventually crossed oceans into the Caribbean and the Americas during the colonial era. Climatologists at the University of Southern California recently studied the mung beans spread and found something unexpected. Humans did not intentionally carry it across Asia. Climate zones shaped where it could survive. The bean expanded on its own terms. Small, green, oval, mild flavor, no soaking required. Ready in 20 to 30 minutes, faster than every other bean on this list. High in protein, potassium, magnesium, and B vitamins. Those white, crunchy sprouts in your stir-fry and spring rolls are mung beans, just 4 days old. Cannellini beans. This one has the strangest naming story in food history. The bean started in Peru. It spread to Argentina. In the late 1800s, Italian immigrants arrived in Argentina by the millions and noticed a bean that looked like a small candy they already knew from back home, called cannellini. That candy was flavored with cinnamon. The Italian word for cinnamon is cannella, from the Latin canna meaning tube, which traces all the way back to Akkadian, an extinct language from ancient Mesopotamia. A South American bean, named after an Italian candy, named after a Southeast Asian spice, rooted in a dead Mesopotamian language. The immigrants brought the bean back to Italy and it became central to Tuscan cooking. Tuscans were nicknamed mangia fagioli by other Italians, bean eaters. Tuscan farmers made a dish called fagioli al fiasco, placing beans inside a glass flask and slow cooking them overnight in fireplace embers so fresh beans were ready by morning. Large, white, kidney-shaped, creamy, and smooth when cooked. And the twist, a significant percentage of the borlotti beans sold in Italian markets today are American-grown cannellini beans re-imported under a different name. Italy buys its own famous bean back from the United States. Cranberry beans, first bred in Colombia, cultivated by the Aztecs and Incas as far back as 5000 BC. They arrived in Italy in the 16th century when Pope Clement VII personally distributed seeds across the Papal States, Tuscany, and the Veneto for commercial farming. Initially, they were food for the nobility. The working class ate black-eyed peas. As cultivation expanded, cranberry beans replaced black-eyed peas entirely in Italian kitchens and became the defining ingredient in pasta e fagioli, Italy's unofficial national dish. Creamy background, vivid maroon and magenta streaks, dense and buttery when cooked with a chestnut-like flavor, called borlotti in Italy, Roman beans in parts of the US, and fascilia across Turkey and Greece. Those streaks vanish when cooked. Just like the pinto bean, the most visually striking thing about this bean disappears in the pot, and the USDA has officially confirmed that the American cranberry bean and the Italian borlotti bean are the same exact bean. Italian chefs have been arguing about this for over 100 years. 8 beans, 10,000 years of history. Every single one of them shaped what civilizations ate, how wars were fought over farmland, how explorers packed their ships, and in at least one case, how a man chose to die. The bag in your pantry carries all of that. Now you know exactly what you are eating. And that's every beans type explained. Now let's see if you're a pro or if you need your eyes checked. Here are all the stats in the video. Be honest, how many did you actually find? Let me know your score in the comments, and while you're down there, tell me, what's your favorite beans type? If you learned something new today, don't forget to like and subscribe for more food evolutions and deadly history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next bite.